Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Karen Doyle and I'm Operations Director of CTAM Europe. I hope you're all feeling well today and ready for our weekly webinar Wednesday. I'm pleased to welcome Dennis Hodges, who you can see there looking all cool and sharp and ready to give us some midweek motivation. Dennis is the founder of Creatalyst, a global strategy boutique. So today's session is in two parts, and we want it to be as interactive as possible. So please answer or ask questions along the way. There's a Q&A button on your screen. Also, you'll need paper for the second half. If you're joining us for the first time, just a short introduction to CTAM Europe. We're a professional marketing membership organisation with just over 320 members. We started in 2004 with a vision to advance marketing excellence in the cable industry, as well as the mastery of new technologies. We've announced this week a free 2-month temporary membership for new members, so everyone who's registered for these webinars will automatically be set up as new members until June the 1st. Then you'll have the option to sign up for annual membership. Before Dennis starts, he's going to share with you a very short video about the CTAM Europe Executive Management Programme, which we hold annually at INSEAD. Those of you who have been on previous webinars may already know the words to this one by now. So sit back and enjoy, and I will now hand you over to Dennis.
Well, hello everyone. Happy Thursday to you. Let's jump right into the video as Karen suggested. Here we go.
CTAM Europe Executive Management Programme at INSEAD. An intensive, comprehensive learning and development experience developed for the connectivity and entertainment industry. A programme to help industry leaders stay one step ahead of the changes in our industry. At the inception of the 5-day programme, we chose to partner with INSEAD, the business school for the world, whose global MBA programme has been ranked as the #1 programme in the world for 2 consecutive years. Senior executives at the top of the organisations have the time to reflect and think about the seeds and trends of change during the 5-day programme. The programme has helped over 150 senior industry leaders become better leaders throughout the past years. The classes are generally around 20 to 30 participants, and therefore chances for discussions throughout the week are extensive. In addition, there are some fabulous organised networking and social events. New contacts are made and nourished throughout the week and beyond. We hope to welcome you or your organisation's leaders onto our next programme.
There we go. In fact, Karen mentioned to me, I think they're about 2/3 full already. So if you're interested, check it out, get your reservations in fairly quickly. Let's get started here, folks. Quickly, in the Q&A window, please let me know, how are you feeling right now? There's a lot going on in our lives, a lot of pressure, the working from home, the social distancing. I call it physical distancing. We're still connecting socially. But if you would please, in the Q&A window, just pop in and let me know how you're feeling about this. So kind of give me a sense for where your frame of reference and how things are going for you. So waiting for some answers to pop up here. Pretty good, Lucas, nice, good. Okay, mixed, okay, Suzanne, I understand that. A lot of confusion out there. Making the best of it, Hannah, I understand. Dwayne, ready for it to be over. I know this is really gonna test our patience, isn't it? Okay, good. Well, that's a great, thank you for this feedback. Feel free to drop things. Inspired, Elizabeth, excellent. That's perfect. It's a great way to get us started here. So keep that window open because I have some questions as we go on here. And that's my way of hearing from you. So please keep that window open. That'll help me kind of gauge kind of what's going on here. Tell you a little bit about me. As Karen mentioned, I run a company called Creatalyst, and I teach creative thinking as a basis for innovation. I do this through keynotes, much like this, or workshops like we're doing today. I also do trainings for companies. I also do in-depth analyses for companies using creative thinking techniques as a basis for that. I have a video series called Creative Nibble. You can find it on YouTube. I'll share a link with you later in our talk today. It's just a little 2-minute clip about creativity, a little inspiration for you. I published a book a couple of years ago called 11.5 Ways to Ignite Your Creativity. I also do photography, and I have an online photography course called Develop as an Artist. And most recently, I developed a thing called the IDEA formula, which is a structured format for ideation for companies. So that's a little bit about me, but let's get into talk about you, because this is what this is all about today. To begin, in the chat window, if you would please, let me know when you first wake up in the morning, what are some of the first things you do? Maybe a bit different now, I realize, working from home, but just if you would in the chat window, first open your eyes, you turn off your alarm clock, what are some of the first things you do in the morning? Let me know in the chat window, please. Hit snooze, don't we all? Check social media, Hannah. Stretch, make some coffee, excellent. Scroll your phone, okay? Okay, got not proud. Go to the bathroom, of course. Yoga session, nice. Grab your glasses, stumble down, put the kettle on. Check, see how good your sleep app is. I want to talk a little bit about social media and scrolling on your phones, because you know, this is pretty common for all of us. It really happens a lot. And if you think about it, the iPhone, smartphone's been around with us now, I think, for 12 years only. And 12 years ago, we were spending about 7 hours a day in front of a screen. And that was primarily television and computer screens. Today, we're at 12 hours a day, and this is adults. We're at 12 hours a day in front of a screen. And that's because of our smartphones and our tablets. We're online a lot more. And social media helps draw us in, and not just social media, there's news and everything else. We have our emails with us all the time and so forth. If you think about it though, think about that amount of time we're spending in front of a screen. We've got 24 hours in a day. If you're 12 hours in front of a screen, and let me give you 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. I'm being generous perhaps, but let's give that a shot there. That leaves 4 to 6 hours for everything else in your life. Now, a couple of weeks ago, that included commuting to work. Okay, that included meetings at work, it included going out to lunch, included shopping, time with friends, time with family. But there's not a lot of time in there. And so it's kind of crazy to me how much time we're spending in front of screens at this point. And in fact, our smartphones have become, we're so dependent upon them as we all are. I mean, even myself, that there's a whole new industry that's been born as a result of this. This is a product called Pause. And what Pause does is you drop your phones into the box and you put the top on, and we put the lid on, it blocks the signals coming to and from your phone. So we can't just turn the phone off, right? We'll never turn our phones off. So this helps give us some separation physically from those phones. They don't get signals. We don't hear them ring. We don't hear them chirp or vibrate, to give us some time. So we're actually looking for some other outside force to help us get that separation. Kind of crazy. Or have you seen this one? Anybody seen the product called Desert Island? Desert Island is an app you can download from the App Store. And what it does, the concept is, if you were going to a desert island, what apps do you have to have? And so you go through your phone with this application and click on the must-have applications, and then that's what's on your home screen, and that's all you see. So again, trying to give us that separation from the plethora of applications we have and all the demand we have for our attention. This is a fun one, okay? This kind of ties back into social media and everything. It's a product called If I Die. Let's be honest, it's not if I die, it's when I die, right? I mean, I think it's kind of an ironic name for it, but If I Die is great, because when you move on to the hereafter, If I Die is there to continue to post on your behalf to social media. And you think I'm kidding, but I'm not. It's a real deal. It's a real thing. Here's another favorite of mine. It's called Binky. And I don't know, anybody have Binky on your phone? Let me know in the chat window if you have Binky anywhere. Probably a lot of people don't know about this. Binky is great, because what Binky is, it's a free app. And it has thousands of images on there. And you can scroll through them. You can like them. You can comment on them. You can share them. The ironic thing is they don't go anywhere. So Binky is to social media what a pacifier is to a baby, not the real thing. But it just shows how dependent we are on our phones and how important they are to us and staying connected and all this addiction we almost have to it. In fact, Atlantic Magazine has branded the smartphone as the cigarette of the 21st century. You think about that. There's a lot of truth to that, because we draw within ourselves. You know, people who smoke know you go out and have a cigarette, it's you and that cigarette, little break, little time by yourself, chance to kind of draw within. We do the same thing with our phones. I mean, you've seen that. You look around you in a public space, not today, generally speaking, looking in public spaces, you'll see people that grab their phones and they're in their own little bubble, their own little world with that phone, looking at things, whatever they're doing, doesn't matter, but it's their own little world. We also get a dopamine hit as a result of being on our phones. We get that little burst. Now, when the time comes and we're back where we can socialize a bit more and be in groups again, try this. When you're having a chat with some friends, just standing around 4 or 5 of your friends and having a chat with them, just pull your phone out of your pocket and look at it and then put it back. Don't do anything. Just look at the front screen and put it back. And I kid you not, within 20 seconds, every other person will check their phones because they're afraid they're missing out on something. And it comes down to really, it's just this fear of missing out, right? We'll talk about that a bit more in a second. Now, a question for you, with our smartphones and our computers and everything going on, how many of you multitask? Anybody out there multitask? Let me know in the chat window if you would, please. Anybody guilty of multitasking, or not guilty, but anybody multitask? Yeah, all the time, exactly. Now, what's interesting is it's not actually multitasking. The correct term for it is rapid toggling between tasks. Let me explain the difference. Multitasking is a drummer in a band. He has one purpose, okay? The drummer has one purpose, and the hands are doing different things, and both feet are doing different things, and that's a multitasking environment. It's multiple things happening at the same time around one focus. Or think about an organist, right? Multiple keyboards, and there's also a keyboard for the feet, pedals for the feet. And so that is multitasking as well, but it's all around one purpose. What the rest of us are doing is it's actually rapid toggling between tasks. So think about it. You're cranking away on a document, okay, working on a project, your phone rings. You switch off from the document, you switch on to check your phone, you answer, you switch off, you go back to your computer, to your document. You're working again, you're in the office this time, working away, and someone comes in. Quick question, yes. You switch off, switch on, answer the question, have that conversation, you switch off and the conversation come back. And so we have this constant back and forth. And so what this is doing to us is really reduced our span of attention as adults. In fact, the average span of attention for an adult is 8 seconds. Not joking, this is proven. That's actually less than that of a goldfish. Pretty sad, but it's true. And so my thought for you is, instead of a fear of missing out, instead of always checking things, and Karen and I were talking before we started here about how we have little notices that pop up on our phones or on our computers about a new email, maybe it's audio sound. If you switch those things off and give yourself a chance to focus a bit, might be a better way to look at it, a different way to kind of manage those interruptions we have in our lives. So instead of a fear of missing out, how about power off, creativity on? A chance to switch off for just a bit and have a chance to look at things a little bit differently. Does that sound good? I think I see some nods out there. So I want to go back to this slide here. I was guilty of the same thing, of waking up in the morning, turning my phone off, it's used for my alarm, switching it off, boom, straight to email, boom, straight to social media, and those types of things. It's kind of an interesting concept when you think about it. You know how when you first wake up in the morning and you have these amazing ideas in your head, and it's because at night, all the barriers come down while you're sleeping. And that's why you wake up in the morning and you remember that person's name from yesterday you couldn't think of. Or suddenly you have an idea for a solution to that problem you've been working on for the past couple of days. It's because the barriers come down and the different nodes start communicating one with another, and less distractions around you. Well, when we wake up first thing in the morning and we grab our phones and hit that button, we're back at work. You're laying in bed in your Hannah Montana pajamas, Spider-Man pajamas for the guys. You're in your pajamas there and you're checking your email, you're suddenly back at work. Well, I did the same thing. And I realized it's a terrible way to start the day. And so by not checking my phone for at least an hour in the morning, I was able to do some other things. I took some time to do some writing. And all of these projects you see on the screen right now are a result. The ideas came from that first time in the morning where I had a chance to sit and think. Now, in my case, I don't have small kids, so I don't have to get up and get them around. We'll talk about how to find that time for yourself throughout the day. But the reality was, by taking some time just to think, some time to pause, some time to set myself in a different track without putting myself back at work or getting pissed off at the news or something. I was able then to move these projects forward as a result of starting my morning just a little bit differently. So you're probably going, okay, Dennis, great for you. Well, it worked for me. Well, I wanted the same thing. So a few years ago, I hired Millward Brown to do a global panel for me. It was working adults 18 plus, and they were asked to take at least one break a day. At some point during the day, step away from the computer, step away from their phones, and with pencil and paper and just put their thoughts down. Follow me? So no other restrictions. Just step away from your computers, take a small break away from those, and just sit and think and put your thoughts down on paper. They did it for 30 days, and we chose 30 days because it takes about 20 days for your brain to start realizing this is now a habit, this is now part of my routine, whether it's diet or exercise or something you want to change in your life. It takes about 20 days of consistency for it to really kick in. So that's what we did. And at the end of that time, here are the results we had from that study. And to be honest with you, I was floored. I was hoping for a point or two increase. But the fact that people had a 15 to 18 point increase in feeling satisfied with life, feeling creative, and feeling more motivated was a massive win for those people. I was thrilled to see that happen. Now, some people say, well, I don't have time to take a break. Well, you know, Forbes did a study and found that people spend between 20 minutes and 2 hours a day at work, online, for non-work related activities. Between 20 minutes and 2 hours a day. Do we have time? Maybe we do. You think about that a little bit. So, Sir Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, and Walt Disney. Okay, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, Walt Disney. In the chat window, please, let me know what is one thing they had in common. Share with me something they had in common, please. Hello, Tom Shemolevsky. Good to see you on the call. Just saw that. They're used in an Apple campaign. Okay, Lucas, all right, those three people. Anybody else? Thoughts about what Sir Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, and Walt Disney had in common? No other takers? Last chance. Oh, here we go. They're creative. They were creative. And then what's the thing I want to point out is the fact they didn't have smartphones. I can hear you moaning. I can hear you moaning from here, believe me. Now, look, stick with me though on this. They didn't have smartphones, and obviously they didn't because they weren't around yet, right? But Sir Isaac Newton, the story is he was sitting in his mother's garden on a summer day. He was sitting on a tree thinking, right? Just taking a break. He wasn't trying to get to the next level of Angry Birds, right? He was just chilling out, enjoying the summer day. When an apple fell, he began to think about the concept of gravity, right? Albert Einstein, when he was boarding the tram in Bern, Switzerland, right in front of this clock tower, in fact, instead of updating his status where he was, you know, checking in, I'm on the tram now, he was just staring out the back window of the tram and looked at the clock tower and thought to himself, if I were traveling at the speed of light, the hands on my watch would move much faster than the hands on the clock tower. The theory of relativity was born. Walt Disney used to take his daughters down to the Griffith Park Carousel in Los Angeles. And instead of returning phone calls, didn't have a cell phone, instead of answering emails, they weren't available then, he sat on a park bench and just observed. And he listened to the kids having fun, but listened to the grumpy staff. He was eating stale popcorn and noticed the littered grounds. And he thought to himself, this could be done so much better. All three of them were just taking time to think, taking time for a pause, taking the opportunity just to chill out and think about things just a little bit. And part of that, I think, really is that they were also daydreaming a bit. Anybody daydream out there? Let me know in the chat window, please. Do you daydream? Sorry, Dwayne. Sorry, great addition there about Isaac Newton, that actually he was in quarantine at university during the plague. Okay, so different story, but the same thing. He was still in quarantine, taking time. So yes, we all daydream, absolutely. In fact, adults daydream up to 40% of the time. That seems like an awful lot of time, but when you think about daydreaming, is really interesting. There are two components of daydreaming. There are the fantasy daydreams. You're sitting here thinking, ah, man, if I won the lottery, I would do this with the money. I'd be living on a desert island, and when you come back to reality, you're pretty disappointed. That's a fantasy daydream. But there's other daydreams, much like the Walt Disney daydream. Think about it. He's sitting on the park bench and he's seeing the opportunities, seeing the possibilities. And those are productive daydreams. So, when you've been in meetings, and you're talking about a concept, some ideas, and suddenly one of your colleagues is staring out the window. It's like, did they check out? Probably not. They might have, but chances are they're starting to daydream about it because they're thinking about solutions and possibilities. And daydreaming is really an important part of what we do as adults. Taking time just to daydream and think about some things, staring out the window, taking a walk, whatever it is, those daydreams are really, really productive. And you've got to believe that Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton and Walt Disney alike, that they were daydreaming a bit about possibilities and concepts. So daydream is very much an important part of our lives. Now, any of you kind of daydream in the shower, hang out in the shower, and yeah, let me know in the chat window, please. You in the shower, you kind of have some great ideas in the shower oftentimes, I'm gonna guess. There's something about staying in the shower. You're staying in the shower, shampooing your hair. Well, you're shampooing your hair. I'm just standing in the water, let's be honest with you, okay? So, but still at the same time, yeah, the greatest ideas come in the shower, but why? And there's a combination of things. There's a combination of distractions and no distractions. Now, the distractions come from the fact you have water running down over your body, and that sensory experience, it ignites all the nerves on your body as you feel that water flowing over it. And so it distracts part of your brain to feel that and enjoy that, which opens up the other part of your brain just a chance to think. The other part is no distractions. You can't do a whole lot of computer work. I've never taken my laptop into a shower. I don't want to try that, but you don't really do a whole lot of work in the shower. So you have fewer distractions. You have a chance just to think and ponder some things. Well, so that's where this comes from. That's why this happens in the shower. But it becomes really messy. Loads of ideas, but how do you put them down on paper? It's really difficult. So here's my one tip for you today. This is my shower, and I actually have a little whiteboard off on the wall over there, just out of the reach of the drips of water. I tell you what, it works like a dream. So take that idea and run with it. I want to come back to our computers here. We are exposed to linear structures nonstop in our lives, linear and structured environments. And this is just a screenshot you can tell from a computer. And obviously with a computer, we have to have some organization, because can you imagine if you wrote a file and saved it and it just went somewhere on your computer? I mean, how difficult would that be? It'd be impossible to use it, access it, you'd lose it. It doesn't make sense. So we have to have this organization. But subtly, I'm seeing that we have columns and rows, and it's linear structures we're exposed to all the time. Even on our phones, we have the rows of icons and structures of icons that happen there too. And that becomes a bit of a challenge for us as well, because it's all this non-stop structures. But there's little bits of our analog lives, so getting away from the digital side, little bits of analog lives calling out to us. For example, in the chat window, let me know, what is the icon where you save a file? What's that icon, please? It's a disk. It's a floppy disk. When was the last time you used a floppy disk? How many years has it been since you've used a floppy disk? And if you're under the age of 30, you may have never used a floppy disk, right? Well, it's also interesting, think about it for a second. What's the icon when you go to fill out a form online, the icon where you're supposed to put your name in? It's usually a pencil, right? Well, you're not writing on your screen, but the concept is this is where you write your name. Okay, my favorite one is actually, think about your smartphone. When you take a picture, it makes a sound, right? What does that sound like? Anybody want to venture a guess at that in the chat window, please? Q&A window, let me know. What is the sound that your camera makes on your phone? Sounds like a shutter. It does. It sounds exactly like a Nikon motor drive. When you used to click it, the mirror flips up, the picture takes, and the film advances to the next frame. Film to the next frame. Now think about the irony of that. We're talking about a digital camera. There's a shutter, but it's different, it's a digital. There's no mirror that flips up, there's no film, there's nothing out there. Well, these are called skeuomorphisms. And a skeuomorphism is something that represents something that it's not. But it says to me that these icons, the floppy disk, the pencil, the sound of an icon motor drive, this is our analog lives calling out to us, that our need to feel things, even though we're becoming more and more digital, we need the tactile aspects of how we communicate. It's really, really important to us. In fact, despite all the digital things going on, pencil sales continue to grow at 7% annually. Who'd have thought that? Most people think, well, pencils are dead, but they're not. They continue to grow, they continue to pop up, they continue to have annualized growth because people are missing some aspects of that tactile part of their lives. In fact, our sense of touch is really, really important to us, and handwriting is really important. Sense of touch is important to us because we have more nerve endings in our fingertips than anywhere else on our bodies. You think about how important touch is. Just you walk into a store, right? And you want to feel the fabric of that jacket. You want to feel how it feels. Or walk into a crystal shop, any crystal store or china shop, and there will be a sign at adult eye level that says, "Do not touch." Because we love to touch. That's how we learn. Babies, you watch babies grabbing things. They're learning every time they touch and feel the texture. It's hot, it's cold, it's soft, it's rough, whatever it is. We learn from the sense of touch. And so what's really important to us is what's called haptics. And haptics are non-verbal communication involving the hands, involving touch. You think about it from a handwriting perspective and how important handwriting is to us. There are connections that happen between the eye, the brain, and the hand that you cannot replicate any other way. It's very tactile, it's very, very important to us. If you think about it too, handwriting is a 5 senses experience, right? So stick with me on this. You feel the pencil in your hand, right? You know how that feels. Smell the pencil. We all know what a freshly sharpened pencil smells like, right? You see and decide where to put the pencil on the paper. And in fact, you have to decide where to start your document on the paper. It doesn't start at the top. You can start wherever you want to. You have to decide and you determine what font you're going to write in. Think about it, that's your handwriting. How big the words are going to be, so the size of the font. You have to determine when to go to the next line and so forth. So you see it, right? You're seeing it, you hear it because you hear the scratch of the paper on the scratch of the pencil on the paper. You smell it, you see it, you hear it, you feel it. You can taste it, right? You can chew on your pencil. Everybody chewed on a pencil before? I'm going to guess yes. Okay, we've all chewed on pencils. Have you ever chewed on your keyboard? I didn't think so, right? We don't chew on our keyboard. So it's really important to us about this tactical bit and using pencil and paper and getting our thoughts down in a different way. It's also a slower, more methodical process. And it can drive you crazy on the one hand because we're used to banging away things on a keyboard. But when you take time to write, it engages your brain, your eye, and your hand in different ways, way different from banging away on a keyboard. So the importance of touching and getting in touch with our analog lives that way is really important. In fact, there's often a debate about paper or electronics. Let's look at this. Look at this.
Emma. 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 Emma.
So indeed, paper does have a future in our lives, and this is actually particularly relevant right now with people being short on toilet paper everywhere for some unknown reason. So anyway, but you can see how it's just a bit of fun, right? So part of pausing, thinking, and creating is the concept of getting comfortable. And so I know you're working from home now, so you may be wearing pajama bottoms or you may be just wearing some casual clothing. But think about what is a definition for you, and put that in the window here, please. What defines getting comfortable to you? How do you define getting comfortable? When you come home, when you came home from work, when you come home from work, What does getting comfortable mean to you? How do you define comfortable? What is that for you, please? Very misleading. I'm glad. I know. Okay, I've got a glass of wine up there, but indeed, a glass of wine is one way to do it. You like where my head is in the graphic? Oh, am I in the middle of the wine glass? Comfy clothes. There we go. Sitting on the couch. Exactly. You have a comfortable space. You got wine. Got it. Slippers. Absolutely. Sweatpants. You get out of your work clothes. Switching off. Absolutely. So getting comfortable is a really important part of how we connect and how we get back into our comfort zone. And you think about it, you may have heard of the concept of tour writers with the case of rock stars. This is a kind of interesting concept. A tour writer is in the contract that this has to be present at the venue or the star will not perform. Now, some of them sound kind of crazy. Jack White. Jack White has to have fresh guacamole made from his recipe off stage. Okay. Or Alicia Keys. She has a very specific scent of candles from a very specific brand of candles that have to be in her dressing room. And Madonna, it sounds insane, but stick with me. Madonna off stage is her living room, not a living room. It is her living room, her furniture, her decorations, her design. You're going, are you kidding me? But think about that. These are artists at their core. They may be rock stars, but they are at their core artists. They are musicians, they're writers, they're performers. And so for them to get comfortable, they have to have certain elements that define comfort for them. So even though they're rock stars, they're traveling around staying in 5-star hotels all the time. Yes, but it's still a hotel. They're not home, they're not comfortable. So an important part from your standpoint of how to tap into your creativity is to get comfortable. Find that comfortable space. If it's a comfy couch, a glass of wine, changing your clothes. When you get in that comfort zone and that space in your home, and that opens up your channels then to create. Pause, think, create is actually a pretty simple concept, right? Pause, think, create. The question is, do we take time? Can we find time to make that happen? You recall the study I shared with you a little bit ago. The one thing I didn't tell you about that study was how long I asked people to take a break. Remember those charts, 15 to 18 point increases in satisfaction with life, feeling motivated, feeling more creative, okay, in the 30-day period. And the breaks they were asked to take were 10 minutes. That's it. My question to you is, can you find 10 minutes for yourself? Can you find 10 minutes just to do something different and stepping away from machines, stepping away from the chaos, give yourself time to pause, time to think, and time to create? That's your charge, and I hope that's what you'll do. Now, what's interesting, I did this talk recently at a conference up in Vancouver, and they had this wall. It's called a dream wall. And on this wall, I'm sure you can read this online or not, but people on here had things like, I want to write a book. I want to get that song published. I want to, multiple things. When you think about it, you could do in a 10-minute period. Give you an idea. If you read at about 200 words a minute, which is pretty average, okay, 200 words a minute for a 10-minute break, within 30 days, you can read a 60,000-page book. It's a pretty good sized novel and a pretty good sized business book in 30 days, just by 10 minutes a day. You want to write a book? Try this. If you type at 40 words a minute, take a 10-minute break, that's 400 words. If just by 10 minutes a day of writing, within 6 months, you've written your book at 60,000 words. It's very possible, very doable. Pause, think, create. That's the concept. That's your charge. And I hope you go for it. So, questions at this point. What questions do you have? Anybody have questions and you want to drop into the, oh, sorry about that. Any questions you want to drop into the chat window? Comments, questions, anything? Quiet. Everybody there? Hello? Checking out, here we go. No question. Okay, cool. Look, there's a second half to this. And what I want to do in the second half is teach you a creative thinking technique So if you have some time, take another 30 minutes here and stick with me. Up to this point in your career, you've probably been exposed to these different topics. Sorry, let me back up a second. Oh, thank you, Dwayne, for your comments there. Tom, if you could do one thing differently, what would you recommend we do differently tomorrow? The one thing I would do is I would change how I start my day. I realize a lot of people have young kids at home now that unexpected and they take your time and attention. But the one thing I'd recommend you do is find some time for yourself. Can you do it first thing in the morning? If not, look, you don't have a commute. So you're saving already 20 minutes. I had someone call the other day, an hour and a half commute. So you don't have that commute time that you're dealing with. So you have some time, some found time in the day. You're also not getting drawn into meetings all the time. You know, you're not going out to lunch. You've got there's some breaks that are just given, some gifts of time that have popped up now, some pockets that are available to you. My recommendation is when you see that opportunity to step away from your computer for a little bit, try stepping away, grab a piece of paper and put some thoughts down. I'm going to teach you a technique right now that can help you do that. So let's move on here. Up to this point in your career, and through education and so forth, you've been exposed to about 1,000, 10,000 hours of these subjects over here. I won't read them, but you can see what they are. At the same time, you probably had less than 10 hours of creative thinking training. It's just not taught. Even today in the schools, it's not taught a whole lot in many, I'm not sure what every country, but a lot of countries don't teach it. Well, now you're going to pick up some creative thinking time, increase your knowledge in this space. I'm going to share with you the concept which is called mind mapping. Anybody do mind mapping? Let me know in the window here, please. Have you been exposed to it? Do you do it regularly? Have you never heard of it? Whatever we have here. Lucas, you're familiar with it. Okay, do you do it on a regular basis? Different question. Dwayne, you got your pad and pens ready to go. Good. Now and again, you do it right. Right, okay. So I'm going to teach you all mind mapping, and maybe you've been exposed to it, maybe you haven't. Here's a chance to, well, Becky, use these to revise for your unit exams. Excellent, exactly. Great way to get some thoughts done on paper there. Okay, Tom, with your financial advisor, interesting. Trying to do a deal out for your planner. Okay, not so successful. Let's refresh this. And if you haven't been exposed to it, it's a great opportunity. Mind mapping is a great way to get ideas down on paper quickly. It's pretty much a brain dump. But it's also, it looks random, but it actually has some great structure to it too. It's a non-linear creative thinking technique. And you think about it, let's say this is so hard right now because I usually say, you're planning on going to take the family to the beach. Well, maybe you are, because we can still do that, right, with the family, to go out and go do something with the family out of doors. So you're trying to plan out the activities and you're thinking, okay, we're going to go out today and take a trip with the kids. We've got to be careful. We need to take some sanitizing wipes and some soap and water with us and so forth because of the world we're living in at the moment. But we want to take some food because we have to buy food. So control what food we have. We have to get our food. What kind of food? Is it snacks? Are we having lunch? We're going to have dinner. How long will we be out? What's the weather like, by the way? Is it sunny? What's the temperature going to be? Chance of rain? And so you start thinking about these different aspects of this trip. I just rattled off 3 or 4 ideas. They're not connected at all. One was talking about sanitation. One was talking about food and water. One was talking about weather, which then leads into clothing, that leads into shoes, it leads into, is it warm enough to go to the beach? And if we go for a swim, and if we do, we need shampoo. You follow me, right? So that's how our brains work, is in this nonlinear fashion. And what mind mapping does is help capture those ideas, those nonlinear thoughts, quickly and down on paper, just like this. This is a mind map in front of you, and it has certain elements. The first thing, of course, is the subject in the middle. Now, I want to make sure this is a really important point, because to have the right subject is really, really important, how you frame it. For example, when we were going to remodel our home, put down home remodel. Okay, we live on a lake. Okay, fine. The home remodel. I put on bigger kitchen, extra bathroom, more outlets. It's an older home, doesn't have enough power. More outlets, blah, blah, blah. It was not inspirational at all. It didn't really share any great insights to what this meant. But threw that mind map away and I rephrased it and I wrote down reimagining the lake home. Just a change in phrase, reimagining it. That still dealt with the concept of remodeling it. But suddenly the idea is we live on a lake. How can we try to harmonize the outside with the inside? I got a lot of windows over here, windows behind me. How can we tie into what's going on in the world outside of us? Maybe we want lots of light. It's a place for the family to come meet. So we want multiple locations for people to gather and hang out. We wanted, of course, some privacy because it was an older home that had one bathroom. Well, we'd like to have our own bathroom for the master suite. So the bathrooms popped up and the outlets and things were happening. But what really happened was the reimagining was thinking about how do I want this to be? So your subject is really, really important. Off the subject, then you have the key ideas. And what you do is you put down one key idea per line. In this case, you can see materials, technique, why am I doing this? When am I doing this? Okay, what is it? Resources. These are different things, different, think about it like a tree with the major branches coming off. And then the details are the smaller branches. And so you just keep branching out as you go into more and more and more detail. So you start with the main concept, what the subject is, do your major branches in terms of what the key topics are, and then you branch out from there. Now you notice on this chart, if you can see it pretty well, you can see I've circled certain things in different colors. And what will happen on a mind map is you will suddenly see certain themes start to emerge. You'll see certain topics, certain words that pop up multiple places or themes that are connected. You want to pay attention to those because those are priorities. Those are things that are calling out your attention, whatever it may be. Is it budget? Is it, here was a certain project, whatever it is, how does this look? How does this work and so forth? So we want to pay attention to those and circle those so you don't lose sight of the fact they're really important elements. Clear so far? What questions do you have? Let me know, please. Any questions at this point? No questions. Let's press on. So as I mentioned, mind mapping really flows the way your brain does. I gave you the going outside with the family type example, okay? And it captures these free-flowing thoughts clearly and quickly. It's easy to understand. I'm going to teach you mind mapping right now. You're going to do it, and what I've taught you, you've learned. You can share it with other people. You can teach your family members, teach your colleagues. Okay, it's that simple to learn, which is what I love about it, but it's so, so, so effective. So the guidelines you want to do here is you want to write down everything, even if it doesn't seem to make sense. When you're doing your map, you'll have a random thought come into your mind. It's like, where did that come from? Don't screen it. Put it down on paper because there's a reason it popped up in your mind. It may be unrelated. You may find later it is related. Just don't screen it. Don't edit. Don't tell yourself that's a dumb idea. No, don't do that. Just put the thoughts down. Let your brain flow. Get these ideas down. It's so refreshing when you do that. As I mentioned again, one key word per line. So the major branches and the smaller branches, one key thought per line there. Like I said, free-flowing associations, you'll find yourself jump around on the map. That's normal. That's very easy. Then connect those associations. So I talked about the priorities that happen. I also encourage, I usually put up in the corner, you'll see on a video I'm going to show you here, the who, what, where, when, why, how, and dollars. Those don't have to be branches, but you want to make sure as you're doing your map, it kind of, when you come to a point to take a pause, have I addressed those? Make sure you, because oftentimes it fills in a lot of gaps on a map for you. Okay, want to show you a video of a mind map here, and let's just take a look at it. I'll just let it run here. It's only a couple minutes. Oop, there we go. So again, major thought in the middle. Here I do the who, what, where, when, why, how, and budget. Again, it's just a reminder that I want to make sure I do address those. I do touch on those topics because that tends to round out the map. Here we go. First major thought coming off of here. This is about writing a book, and I need some primary research behind the book. So the thought was, okay, who's going to do the, why do I need the research? Well, I need it for credibility. And who's going to do the research for me? Not related, but the credibility is sort of, so I want to use Monica, my favorite researcher. How do I pay her to do this? How does this work out? And so the budget comes up. To write a book is going to cost some money. It's not just the research is going to cost money, it's also getting it published. And how do you do that? Never published a book before. Do I find a publisher? Do I do self-publishing? Right? All these kinds of thoughts start popping in my mind. So I'm back up here on the primary research, and again, it comes up to budget. Okay, what's this going to cost? I have no idea what a research study like this would cost. And how do I pay for this? How does this work out? You don't pay people, I don't believe, to do research studies, but I didn't, I know people get sometimes, people do get some sort of compensation. Does that work, and how does that work? And so you can see where this goes. And this is going to jump ahead here. There you go. So you can see what the map is starting to flesh out. I have here, and there's a roadmap I need to do. There's endorsements I'm looking for. So now I'm looking at building a case behind doing the research, third-party research in here. How do I, different aspects. So the research became a big issue and budget became a big concept here. So in the end, here's what the math looked like, okay? Now what I showed you here is this took about 12, 15 minutes to do the math like this. Not a lot of time, really. But you can see what happens with the map, where you just put the thoughts down, let them flow, let them come out. Just don't restrict any ideas there. Any questions? What questions do you have right now? Anybody? So Tom says, I've had some bosses who mind map, but using mind mapping software, right? Yes, there is software out there, Tom, and you can find applications for it. I've tried the app. I don't like the app at all. To me, it's too constricting. It slows me down because your brain works really, really, really fast. And being able to move the paper around, it's a lot. I find it easier. And I have big sheets of A2 size in the US, 11 by 17, big sheets of paper I like to work with. And they're just great because you kind of get pretty much a whole map on there. So I prefer pencil and paper. Plus, it's not technology dependent. I can pop it in my little notebook with me when I go somewhere. I've got my mind map with me, so I like that. So the question is this what I suggest doing during the 10-minute break? I do. I think mind mapping is a great tool to use. Doesn't have to be that, but it's a great tool for you just to think about. So in that 10-minute break I talked about, do you have a project you're wanting to do? Either it can be business related or personal related, doesn't matter. If you have an idea of something you're thinking about, a mind map is a great way to spend that 10-minute break and knock that out. Yeah, I love the pencil and paper part of it. So back to the question, just writing things down and do mind map as well. So in that 10-minute break, I recommend you can do anything you want to do, of course. What I typically do is either a blank piece of paper just to put thoughts down. Sometimes it becomes just a to-do list. But just getting that stuff out of my head as I get it down on paper. Other times it becomes sort of a thought behind an idea I have, just to kind of write it out. Sometimes it's a map, sometimes it's not. It just depends upon the subject. But a map is a great way if you have a specific thought, project you're thinking about. If it's whatever the project is, okay? Like you saw, like my home remodeling thing or writing a book, whatever. You can map that out pretty easily. It works like a dream. Right, so the question again was about the colored pencil and the mind map in the video. They are related, yes. There's some themes that started popping up in different parts of the map, and that's just how the map works. You put some thoughts out there and suddenly, like I mentioned on the financing the book, budget was an issue. How do I pay for research? How do I pay for a book? Publishing is a different side of that, but it's all money related. So I highlighted all the budget related type topics, so they're connected. And the reality was, those are priorities. Because you're trying to connect, it pops up a lot. That theme is popping up a lot. Budget, 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 money, money, money. Okay, that's something I need to deal with. I need to figure it out so I can be comfortable knowing, yes, I can afford to do this, or here are some solutions for me to be able to afford it. That's how I look at it. Great questions, thank you. So what I'd like to do, hopefully you have some paper handy there. I hope you do. I would like you to do a mind map. On this call right now, this is something different. Usually I do this face-to-face in a conference room with people. We got sheets of paper. I'm walking around talking to you one-on-one. A little bit different to do this virtual. Let's give it a shot here though. So you have a blank paper in front of you and a pencil or pen. Think about it. You're not going to share your map with us. We're going to talk about process a little bit, but not about the map. So to do whatever you want to map. Doesn't matter to me. You're not going to share that with me. But so take a moment, if you would, please. Grab some paper. I've got this. I'll leave this screen up here for you so you can see it. If you have questions, pop them in the question and answer window, and I'll be glad to answer them. I'll be answering them through audio. Okay, a little awkward. Usually I do it one-on-one, a little quieter. This is how we'll do it in this case. So please take a few minutes, and I'm actually going to put some music on for you. A little study music, little ambient sounds for us here. So you have a little music in the background while you do this, and I will set a timer for us here, but we've got some time. So please, let's take a few minutes here and do a map, yeah? Okay, hate to break into your flow here, but I kind of need to do that just given our time we have available. How's it going? Any thoughts, any questions? Dwayne asked a question here about how does a prioritization of different major thoughts happen? You know, you might discover that one branch of thoughts is of primary importance. Indeed, you might. In fact, maybe you've encountered this already. Sometimes one branch, you need to split out and have it be a whole separate mind map in and of its own. Okay, so sometimes it gets so much detail, you want to split that out and do its own mind map around that certain branch or certain subject. So it's going well. I see that. Okay, good. Oh, thanks. And then I hate to interrupt this. Take a look at what you've done thus far. That was just 5 minutes. Look what you did in 5 minutes. Pretty amazing, no? I mean, it's pretty crazy how quickly the thoughts come down. The music I was playing for you, by the way, this is ambient noise on YouTube called Yellow Brick Cinema. And it's free streaming, over the good stuff for that. Felt longer, yeah, felt longer than 5 minutes. It's amazing though, isn't it? Just a 5-minute break, but extend that to a 10-minute break and you'll see you can double or triple what you've done, what your output is there. Questions, comments, anybody have difficulty with the process, or do you find it easy to use? Gain any interesting insights here? Actually, we're an extensive question. I've solved 3 issues already. Excellent, Lucas, that's brilliant. Okay, all right, Tom, nice. The pencil and paper made a difference for you. That's cool. Good. Good. Any other questions or comments, anybody, about the process and so forth? Normally what I would do if we had a little more time, I'd put some more music on, we'd dive back in for another 5-10 minutes together. We're kind of running out of time for the webinar here, so I need to respect your time for the day. Before we go, Karen will be sending out to you, I have a little PDF for you here. It's called Play with the Box. Sorry, quick question here. So we can be more creative, we do mind maps every day in 30 days. Actually, the answer is yes. You will see your creativity and your satisfaction. You'll see some stress be reduced because you get a lot of ideas out of your head down on paper. And you'll find it'll tap into that innate creativity you have inside of you. It'll help bring that to the forefront. Nice, Dilato, thank you very much. Okay, sorry, good question. The question here is, how do you summarize your mind map? Look at your mind map you have in front of you so far. It was a nonlinear thinking technique to get the thoughts down on paper. But look at it now, you have an outline. You have the main subject, you have the main bullet points, one through however many, then all the A through numbers after that. You can take this information and put it into a document format to work with, to put it into a formal structure so you can, like, if you're writing a book, for example, or a project you're working on. So the nonlinear thought of getting the concepts down on paper, but then you branch it over, and then that's how the form works on that. So Ravi, you asked the question. Karen will have a copy of this. She'll have the videos recorded, and so she'll put it on the CTAM website, I believe. We'll talk about that in a second here. So yes. So anyway, this play with the box. We're taught to think outside the box. I like to think about playing with the box, because the box, there are constraints we're dealing with. Look at today, right now in particular. It's a free PDF. Karen will shoot that out to you. Just a little thought piece for you to take with you from our time together here today. And finally, here are my contact details. Love to connect with you if we're not connected. Also, if you'd like the set of the slides from today, you can get those at creatalyst.com/webinar, or slides, sorry. It's behind the screen here. The link at the top will take you to my website where you can download the slides in a PDF format. And any other questions, anybody, about what we've done today, their thoughts? Thanks, Dwayne. You're a good man. Karen, you want final thoughts from you?
Dennis, thank you. That was fabulous. And as Dwayne said, you do rock. You've got a really good creative mind. So when I finish work later, I'm going to hide in a room away from the kids. I'm going to put my Hannah Montana pajamas on and grab a glass of wine.
Excellent.
That's me sorted later. So everybody, thank you. If you wish to view the presentation again, and Ravin, I will send you some details of how to do this. It will be uploaded onto the members only section of the CTAM Europe website. I will make you all as members throughout this week. So I'll send you all the registration details and then explain how that you can go on to the members only section of ctameurope.com. As Dennis said, I'll also send out his PDF, Play with the Box. I'll send that out this afternoon. And then keep updated about the next set of webinars. Next week, we've got Guy Bisson from Ampere Analysis with his top trends of 2020. So thanks, Dennis.
One final thought here, folks. Look, if you enjoyed the session today, I'd really appreciate if you share with other people, someone you think might be able to use this information or could use this session in their companies as well. I appreciate it very much.
Yep, I'm sure we will do, definitely. And we'll put it on our social media as well.
Yeah, great.
So thanks for everybody for joining. Thanks from both of us, and wish you a happy week of staying safe and staying inside. Speak to you
Be good.
soon. Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Thank you.